D-Lab everyone, this is Terry with an update on the expansion of D-Lab. I recently installed 6 new Metalux lights in the shop and now I have great lighting to work on these boat anchors. I ended up using the Cooper Metalux series lamps. These are industrial grade, a 4-foot strip LED type lamp. Putting them up was a challenge. I'll show you what I went through. At this time, half of the new shop is complete. The other half still has the old crappy fluorescent lights, but she's really coming together. Alright, so a few of you wrote into me and said, Terry, when you get the lighting phase underway, let us know why you chose the make and model of LED strip lights that you did. Okay, well there's a couple reasons. Number one, I have some history with these lamps. The shop lights are made by Eaton Industrial, and they are the 4-foot LED strip lamps. I've been running them for 5 years without a hiccup. They're great lights, okay? Eaton sold to Cooper Electric, and Cooper launched the Metalux line. So these are actually the same lights. They're just a little bit shorter in profile, but electronically, they're the same thing. All right, so that's one good reason, but the other reason is I'm a ham radio operator. And I cannot have noisy lights in the lab, and I sure don't want to have noise getting into my ham receivers, or I'd have to turn off the lights every time I want to get on the air. So I did some testing on these lamps, and I found that the Metaluxes are pretty much noise free. At the end of this video, you guys will get to see that test, and you can make the decision for yourself. Here's the installation of the 6 Metalux lights on one half of the shop. So what I did is there used to be an old fluorescent fixture sitting right there where you see that rectangle. There was a feed in the middle for the power. I had to go above the ceiling and move one line over to this lamp string and another line over to this string. And it was quite the job, guys. It's probably about 150 degrees up in the attic. I'm going to take you up there real quick and give you a visual. But they all mounted up nicely, and I have wire mold rectangular channel between the two lights. So it's about 2-foot spacing. It really lit up the shop nice, and that's only half of the room. Alright, so to gain access to the attic area, I have this access hatch here in the main shop. So I have to lift this guy up, slide it out of the way, and go up into the dark crawl space. You can't walk up there. I'm going to get some lighting and show you guys what I went through to get those lamps installed. Now here we go. Got a nice bright flashlight. There is actually a little lamp up here that I installed years ago. Gives a little bit of light, but this area gets awful hot in the summertime. I had to crawl across to all this blow-in insulation, and the scary part is when you're up here you have to straddle the ceiling joists or you'll fall through the ceiling in the family room, which is now the shop. You can see some of the wiring over there, so I had to dig through the insulation and put those chasers through the holes to wire up for the lamps. I still have to go all the way over on the other side next for the other side of the room. Now I understand why people hire in electricians to do this kind of work. Okay, here is our test setup. We are going to compare noise levels between the big box store LED lamp versus the Metalux 4-foot LED strip light that I just installed. So the model number of this unit is a PES 120 LED-ST1-S. And then of course we have the Metalux, which is the 4S LS TP 4040 DD-UNV. So for the test, I have an oscilloscope with some probes laying across the front of each LED lamp. It's also being monitored by a ham receiver. I have a NC-300 over here set at 28 megahertz. If you're a ham radio operator, you do not want noise in your audio. So first, we're going to establish a baseline. We'll take a look at the scope. I have a camera monitoring that directly. I'm going to kill the lights. We're going to look at the baseline. Then I'll turn on one light at a time and we'll look at the noise levels. Alright, first, let's establish that baseline. I have this camera monitoring the scope directly. I'm going to go turn off the main lights in the new shop. Okay, so you see you have two little spikes on the scope screen, and those are just some random noise maybe generated by my computer or maybe the power meters on the house, because that's all been upgraded to electronics. And I can actually hear this little variance of a spike in my ham receiver. I've always wondered what it is. Now we get to see it. Alright, so first I'm going to go ahead and turn on the main lights. Remember, there's 6 of them. Let's see what that does to the scope trace. I do not see any difference in the scope trace whatsoever, and I do not hear any noise on the NC-300. Now let's turn on the Metalux light itself and monitor that on the receiver and the scope. Alright, there's the Metalux. Now I did have to turn these because they would just fade out the video of my camera. But you can see there's absolutely no difference once again on noise level, and I still do not hear anything on the national receiver. Now we're going to kill this light. We're going to plug in the big box special. Here we go. Oh yeah. So you can hear a lot of hiss in my receiver. Hear that? And look at the scope trace. She's going wild. Let me unplug it. Yeah, so it's well worth investing in the commercial grade lights versus these big box specials if you are a ham radio operator. For normal use in the shop, it probably doesn't matter, but I also don't like the fact that I'm being bombarded by some type of RF energy on these cheaper lamps. Alright, you can see I'm making great progress on the expansion of D-Lab into the family room. Next step, I need to get the other 6 lights installed. This room needs to be painted white, and then I'm going to buy 2 roll-around 6-foot benches that match this global series. I did pick up this really nice hydraulic scissor lift. It's actually made by Dayton. It's real nice for picking up these heavy Johnson transmitter power supplies. Saves on the back. And you know what, guys? None of this would have been possible without the kind donations that I'm receiving from everybody. I'm putting every dime into the upgrade of this shop so I can take on more work and be much more proficient. I appreciate what you guys are doing.